Hello. I'm stretching our awareness of stretching and yet more ways today. I'd like to talk to you about games and fun ways that we can get ourselves stretching. Now, before I forget, I want to tell you I'm doing this video in my room for a few reasons. Number one, it's one of the only places where I can create space to slow down. I'm home working with kids. And number two, it's the place where I have time to slow down. First thing in the morning, kids don't even know that I'm up yet. It's my me time. End of the day, no more is needed of me. I choose this time. So it's one of the few places that I get a moment to myself. The bathroom's the other one. But let's take some time to talk about simple, fun ways that we can stretch the whole body or just parts of our body. I've got a presentation here guiding me through this experience. I don't think I need this other light. Ah, that's better. Okay. Just going to get a presentation here started so I can take you through this with me. This presentation is going out to caregivers across the province in about an hour. I'll be helping them take a stretch break with me. So excuse me if my video is backwards, but I want you to follow along. Stretching, discovering more moves to keep you well. That's what this is all about. Let's talk about the things that trigger tension, things that you can do to help. And maybe you kind of feel like this sometimes during the day. Like, oh, you've got all these jobs you're supposed to do. Where are you going to find time to do things? Trying to judge what's the best use of my time that's really going to help me with my own goals. And to stretch is to extend yourself to the full length. Body, limbs, wings. My daughter said to me this morning, Mom, I want to show you my moves. So she showed me a beautiful stretch. This is one half of the jumping jacks you might have done when you were in school, because the teacher saw that you were kind of antsy and you needed to get moving. So let's slow down and start with one half of the jumping jack. Open, come back to center. I'm doing one half because a lot of people that I'm working with struggle with moving two parts of their body at the same time. Our bodies like to operate on diagonal planes. Some seniors that I work with will open one side at a time. Some seniors that I work with will open one quadrant at a time. But this is the jumping jack where we're fully open. The game itself of jumping jacks probably came from jacks. I don't have jacks, but I do have something kind of similar. I've got some stuff to pick up on the floor and a ball to bounce. So if you want to get moving and really take the jacks to the full extent of a game that gets you moving and helps you get rid of that extra energy, then this is the game of jacks. You've got a target on the floor. The goal is to bounce the ball, pick up the target, and catch. Now, how hard is that? It might be challenging. You could do it in sitting, you could do it in standing, but the key here is to have a goal in mind. You could do it with a balloon. The game of jacks actually helps us practice all the functional movements. So let's slow it down and discover what's happening in the game of jacks. Advancing my screen here. in the game of jacks, the first functional movement we practice is the push. That's the bouncing of the ball. You got to bounce the ball, then you got to catch it, but you've got to use your legs to get down. Pushing and pulling are two of the important movements we do with our body. I'm moving my body through a functional range here. If you bounce the ball in front of you, you may have to reach your arm out here, right? To start, when I don't know someone well and I'm showing them how to stretch, I stick to stretching at shoulder level. Because for some folks, depending on how they hold themselves, it might create more pain to be reaching above shoulder level than to be working at range. Once someone's good at perfecting the movement of bouncing the ball, catching it, and then lunging to get down, we can start talking about body positioning. But before we do that, let's talk about the lunge. The lunge is reaching down to get something, and you get wide to reach down and get something, or you get long to reach down and get something. If you're getting long, please allow the back leg to float. There's no need to stretch that toe and heel to reach the ground. You won't get the same amount of movement. So allow that back leg to float as you reach down to pick up the jacks. So to reiterate, the game of jacks gets one half of our bodies moving to push the ball, pull it, get long or get wide to get down and pick up your jack. What I love about this game is that you're watching the ball. So your eyes are not going to be down at your feet. They're going to be up in front of you. And that keeps your back straight. What we want to do with the lunge when we're stretching or the squat is keep the eyes up and level. So imagine catching a ball. That's what you want to do. Once you've mastered these movements, you can start thinking about extending your reach to do the full jumping jack. So where are you carrying your tension anyway? Because we've talked about opening up the arms and legs for a movement for the whole body now. And we've talked about using one side at a time or using both sides at a time. Where you carry your tension might be the way you're holding yourself. Are you supporting the weight of your head when you're looking down? When you're stressed? Are you working? Are you clenching your jaw? Are you carrying your tension there? What part of you is closed in this experience? Are you rounding your shoulders? Are you working a lot with your arms in front of you? Are you bending with your back instead of your legs? What part of you is closed when you're not paying attention? Are you shuffling when you're walking instead of opening up your hips and using your core to stay tall? Are you closing here? Just simply because you haven't actually thought really about engaging the core to get this opening and to get this lift at the back. Where you feel your tension is probably the place in your body where you haven't been paying attention. If you don't pay attention, you might be carrying tension, right? Our bodies have a way of letting us know. Now, I've asked you specifically to slow down and play jacks with me because we're in a quiet space that's your me time. When you hurry through a movement, you trigger the nervous system stretch reflex. It's like your seatbelt. If you move too fast, it turns on. But if you move slowly, it allows that movement. Quick moves trigger the stretch reflex. This is why a lot of people are getting hurt in normal range of motion. As they do a fast golf swing, their body isn't prepared to be its own brake, like the seat belt. It takes a lot of practice teaching the body how to relax through the movement. So we want to, as I said, play a slow game of jacks or slow jumping jacks before we take those moves and put them in real life scenarios. If we find we're not taking enough time and we're hurrying to do work with our arms or our backs, we're going to feel that tension from asking ourselves to move quickly, more quickly than we're prepared to move. The stretch reflex, what it does is it turns on the brake of whatever's moving quickly, and the opposite side gets to relax. So for example, those of you who are reaching to get stuff real quick with your back, it's turning on tension here and telling this part of you that it isn't needed because it isn't being stretched. Okay? So there's a reason why people can't really find their core. They're not used to using it. They're not used to challenging it. They're not used to paying attention to it. So it's difficult to get tension in it. Now, we're going to talk about how to use that certain part of you and let go of tension that you're carrying. Maybe you're trying to do the jumping jack slowly, or you're trying to do the jack, and some part of you is not ready to let go. What we're going to do depends on how much time you have. If you only have a moment at the end of the day, 1 or 2 breaths, we're going to do the hold, relax stretch. So that's where you use the energy you have. You're holding, you're guarding. Let's just go with that. For 2 deep breaths, we're going to squeeze our hands. And for 1 slow exhale, we're going to open. Let's do a long inhale together. Gather that energy. And then let's try changing it up. Let's see how it feels to exhale when we move. Because that's what we do when we're nervous, right? I'm anxious. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. You've got extra tension to relax, to let go of. So exhale, get it out, get it moving. Rest and inhale in that new rested position. A lot of seniors are finding changes in their hands. And so they're finding that maybe even their resting posture has a little bit more of a flexed position. Maybe they're finding that holding small items is more challenging. And so we're going to do the hold, relax, stretch and use it to stretch open our hands using our own fingers. We're going to squeeze for a deep breath out, a long deep breath out. Then we're going to place our fingertips together. Maybe it looks like this, maybe it looks like this, maybe it looks like this if you can get all the way open. And inhale into that position. If the tension you're carrying is in your hands, this is a nice way to get full movement. If the tension is in your arms, then we can do inhale and close. Think of the jumping jacks. Ball, jack. Okay, so inhale, exhale and close. Inhale and open. And you can use your own arm. You can use a wall to help push against something. Exhale and close. Try and close like a ball. Inhale and open. All right? So this is called a PNF stretch. It just means it works with your nervous system. It works with that energy that you have to find, contract, hold, tire the nervous system so that it does relax easier. After it's worked for a little while, there's this natural rest period that happens in our body where it's worked and then it naturally comes to rest on its own time. People still do static stretches, and although staying in one place doesn't necessarily work as well for reducing injuries, it does work well in a few different conditions. One is if you're helping someone who has a lot of spasticity. So if they're being held in tension by the nervous system, and it's very responsive by how quickly you move, then holding in that stretched position for up to 2 minutes, staying open and stretching, whether you're in this jack position like this, sitting, lying, when you're open and you stay there with one or all part of you for 2 minutes, it does progressively relax. And if relaxation in these positions is really what you're going for, maybe you want to keep it really simple. Just get into that starfish position or bird in the sky type position and stay there. And just focus on something really therapeutic. Get some aromatherapy going. Smell the smells. Visualize a calm, peaceful place. Clouds floating by. I'm on the grass and just watching the clouds float by. All I'm doing here is focusing on my breathing for a moment. Really what I'm trying to do is just embody that open presence and come to my breathing. It's less about the physical move then that you've chosen and more about the focus of your concentration, because it's a simpler move. I said that static positions where you stay in one place hasn't been shown to be the best way to reduce injuries. The best way to reduce injuries is going through the motions that you're about to do. So if you really do want to do jumping jacks, you should be practicing that specific move. So let's talk about everyday movements now, so you have an idea of what kind of move you want to be practicing. There are 7 everyday movements that I see reflected in everyday life. Whether you're sitting or an able-bodied walking person, you're going to be doing these 7 movements likely in your day. You're going to be pushing and pulling, right? We talked about that part of the jack. We're going to be using your core to stay tall, or maybe if a door opens really quick, you brace yourself, you turn on the stomach muscles to lengthen there. You rotate. When we're talking about half movements in sports, or maybe in dance, we're doing a rotation, right? Then we talked about squat, lunge, and there's some little movements we do with our balance, like dancing. So if one part of you needs to stretch to perform better and have less risk of injury, then it's best to choose a move that mimics what you're actually about to do. And the more you practice it, the more gains you make. Okay, so I'm going to show you some pictures of Greek characters doing everyday movements. Maybe after I show you them, you'll be able to recognize which one you want to work on. So let's start by looking at this mural here. We've got all these characters. Pay attention to which movement you're focusing on. Maybe there's a movement that you've been avoiding. Maybe there's a movement that seems like it's just capturing your attention. You're interested in it. We're going to go through each one now in this video. I got to log into my computer again. Just a moment. Better that this happens now on Facebook than in the middle of my session, right? Computer glitch. It's plugged in. Oh, I know. My iPhone was like sitting on two random buttons, and apparently those two random buttons, when you push them together, do something. And in this case, they restart my computer. So there we go. Let's just make sure it's functioning again. There should be like elevator music playing right now or something. We'll be momentarily getting to the functional movements after this short break. We're almost there, you guys. Okay, functional movement starting with pushing. Here we've got this fellow. He's pushing down. Have a look at what his hand is doing. Is it face up or face down? The hand that's pushing down on the wheel, it's face down. Palms down. If you were to carry a wagon behind you, you'd probably do it in this position because this position is awkward. So when you're stretching to push, you're going to do it in the palms down position, with one exception. If you are doing a push up and that feels weird, palms down, then you could do neutral wrist, right? Holding a weight or something, right? But generally, you're going to be in the palms down position when you go to stretch into a push. Cool. Next one. Pulling. These are all different versions of pulling, but I want you to look intuitively where these ladies here decide to put their arms when they're carrying heavy stuff. That's actually a really important signal when you're doing your exercises. If you wouldn't carry a whole bunch of food out here, then the starter stretch doesn't make sense to be doing out here. If you're new to opening your shoulders, a great place to start is to keep the elbows in. Because when the elbows are in, you're having less tension through the shoulder girdle. So think about carrying something, books, water, elbows in to start. You can always get more open as you progress, but if you're having any shoulder pain, probably good to start with that elbows in, arms open position. Okay? Oh, I know. I don't think I can flip the camera, Mika, midway through the presentation. Oh, maybe I can. Hold on. Whoop. Aha! Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful. Okay, let's go back to that. We've got pulling. Got your elbows in. And see, in all these positions, they've got a lift in their upper body. The whole point of stretching is to get that lift, that openness. So chest up, shoulders back. Pushing, still, the whole point is to get this opening. So chest up, shoulders back. Bracing, you are still opening. See, he's bracing himself for a fight. But this could be somebody bracing themselves for the other side of the door to come open and smack them, which seriously does prevent some people from going out in the community. They think, I don't know if I can get to the bathroom to push open that heavy door. How heavy is the door going to be? What happens if someone else is on the other side of the door and they knock me over? Will you be amazed at how many buildings don't have a wheelchair accessible button? How are you going to get in if it's hard to open the door? Fire doors? It's a big deal, you guys. So it's not just to work for the arms. You got to learn how to get your core engaged and get that lift from there. So you're pulling belly button to your back and lifting there. That's brace. And it's a stretch that actually elongates the spinal muscles. As you lift, you get the elongation for the spinal muscles. Next one, rotation. Rotation is not one of the first movements that I teach people. It's actually a movement that a lot of seniors are avoiding. It's like they haven't practiced it as much. But it's very important if you wanted to, like, reach the toilet paper, for example, right? So rotation involves a lengthening as you twist. It's natural for one part of you to lengthen while the other part naturally contracts. It's like a rubber band. One side is getting shorter while the other side is getting longer. So when you rotate, one side of you is opening and you allow yourself to be tall on that side that's opening, and the other side you allow to be less tall, okay? Because that's a natural twist. See what she's doing here? Oh, we'll get there, guys. Luckily, I'm going to have better technology for my presentation. See how she's reaching back for that arrow? Lengthening on the turning side. And the other side, she's allowing not to have that much lift. She's actually reaching down and petting her little friend there. He is doing some version of a rotation as well. Side bending and rotation feel very much the same at the spine. So when you side bend as well, one side of you has to stay tall. Here, he's lengthening through this side, and the other side he's allowing to shorten a little. Okay? Lunge. How many of you picked this guy as the guy that was like, whoa, that's hardcore. Maybe I wouldn't do that. A lot of people are avoiding lunging these days, getting down. They just don't trust their knees, maybe, to get them there. And that's a real thing. But lunging is one of the movements that opens our hips really well. So for lunging, what's really nice about the lunge is that that back leg gets opened when you keep your chest tall and you get down. So even a mini lunge is a pretty nice lunge. And you can hold on to something to make you more comfortable, right? Remember, the back leg floats on the lunge. Hold a counter. Some people feel a little better when they hold a chair to the side. Lunge this way. A lot of seniors that I'm working with on balance, I get them to put two hands on that knee as they're getting down. They've got a built-in support right here, right? So you can press on your own hand to lunge, but you do want to be pretty wide. You got to be at least more than shoulder width apart, because if you're not long, you're not really going to have the balance to get back down there, right? So your back's got to be tall, and your front knee can't go past the second, third toe. So look down, can't go past. That means can't go forward, can't go over to the side or the other side. It's got to stay generally in that zone. Next, squat. This fellow here is doing two versions of squat. You actually don't have to get down to do a squat. Look how he's got his foot on a stool. Lunges and squats can be done at the stairs, and I'm going to show you. If it's not very comfortable to go to a full step, you could put a book on the floor and practice lunging this way with hands, squatting this way with hand support. And as you shift from side to side, you can work on strength and balance. What you do when you bring your foot up a little is you force yourself to take less weight. So for those of you that are nervous to lunge and squat, and you kind of want to do two things at once, by shifting your weight a little bit and bringing one leg up, you actually stretch and strengthen at the same time. Remember, when we're picking up jacks, you're going to be watching the ball. So chest up, bum back. That's a balanced stretch. If you don't move your bum back, you're going to feel like you're going to fall forward. So the bum back piece is very important, right? Bum back. I've only got a few more minutes here, so I'll just say the very last one I've got is kind of a cheeky picture. It's balance. And that isn't necessarily a physical stretch, but it's certainly a neurological stretch. Because one thing about dance is that you have to sense and respond to external conditions, whether that be the tempo or the song or the partner who's leading you. And as you extend your comfort zone and play with different tempos, play with different moods, play with different partners, you start to stretch the nervous system's connections. So I hope in this presentation you found 1 or 2 new moves that you might be comfortable working on. I want to let you know that I'm going to be continuing to put practice videos in my movement library, and it will be going out to all of my new home body health assessments in the next 3 or 4 months. So anyone who has an assessment will be getting my box of materials, stickers with some pictures of the functional movements, some videos that guide people to get comfortable with the moves. So anyone who's about to have an assessment with my team will be getting these materials to play with as soon as they're ready to give out, which is probably about the fall. And I'm also excited to say that I'm going to send out these materials, these pictures and videos, to all of my home body health patients that I've had through the pandemic, because I know we're all a little nervous about getting back out in the community this summer, but at the same time, we want to feel comfortable moving forward. So if you have questions, if you're interested in checking out the movement library or the stickers as they become available, I'm happy to share the ideas with you, give you a sneak peek. You'll just have to get in touch with me either on Messenger, or I'll put my contact information in the comments here shortly. Okay? Thanks for joining. Take care, everyone.